Said the bride cried all morning, ruined her makeup twice because some monster RSVP'd, yes. They didn't know I could hear them, not at first. I was already inside, sitting in the hotel bar, sipping flat ginger ale from a plastic cup, and watching. The rain smeared the windows like God himself was trying to blur the day. The bartender had disappeared 15 minutes ago. Maybe even he couldn't stomach this wedding. That's when I heard the voice. My mother's, raspy-lipped, soaked in Chardonnay and disdain. She got the invitation because of Adam, she muttered to someone. He felt sorry for her. Honestly, I thought she'd have enough shame to decline. But no, the ugly one is coming. She said it like that, like ugly one was a clinical term, like it belonged on a prescription bottle. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. But my grip on the cup tightened until the rim crumpled like a beer can. I hadn't heard my mother's voice in 9 years. The first time I did, it tasted just like it used. 2. Bitter, surgical, designed to dig. The last time I stood in the same room as her, I was 17, holding a duffel bag and a bus ticket to a city I'd never seen. All because one day I walked into the kitchen without makeup, and she shrieked, oh, like she'd seen roadkill climb out of the trash. She told me no man would ever want me. That my face was a curse God accidentally left on the shelf. She shoved $50 into my coat and said, "Don't come back unless you look different." I never came back. But now, 9 years later, I was here. At my sister's wedding, the golden child. The one with the symmetrical dimples and the Instagram jawline. The one who got everything. College, boyfriends, our mother's approval, while I got silence. Silence, and the echoes of her footsteps, walking away every time I begged for anything. I didn't come for her. Not really. I came because of what I found 2 weeks ago. A voicemail. Old, dated 2 months before the wedding invite showed up in my mailbox. From Adam. He didn't know I had that number anymore. I didn't know he had the guts. "Hey, I don't know if you still use this, but I need to talk to you before the wedding. It's about your sister. About something I found. Please. It's not what you think, or maybe it is. I'm sorry." Then silence. Then static. Then a click. He never called back. But I booked a ticket. Now here I was at the hotel, 30 floors above. The ballroom, the reception kicking off below like nothing ever happened. My mother and sister parading through crowds of champagne and white lilies, pretending their closets weren't full of bones. I waited until the music swelled. Until I heard the DJ announce, "Let's welcome the new Mr. and Mrs. Ashford," and the crowd exploded in applause. Then I rose, took the elevator down, walked barefoot across marble floors that probably cost more than my rent, and when I stepped into the ballroom, everything stopped. A domino line of heads turned. Laughter. Dropped dead mid-sentence. The photographer lowered her camera. Even the flower girl froze, cheeks stuffed with cake. At the center of the room, my mother clutched her champagne flute like she was about to stab someone with it. Her face twisted, drained of color. My sister, in her backless designer gown, went rigid. One hand still locked in Adam's, the other, clenching her bouquet like she wanted to hurl it at my face. But Adam looked like he'd seen a ghost that smiled back. My mother was the first to break the silence. "What is this doing here?" she spat, loud enough for every guest to hear. My sister didn't miss a beat. "You weren't invited," she snapped. "Get out, now!" And that's when Adam finally moved, let go of her hand, took a step forward, and said, "Actually, she was invited. By me." The air cracked. Gasps. One old aunt clutched her pearls. Someone dropped a fork. My sister's face collapsed. "What the hell are you talking about?" Adam looked at me, then back at her, and smiled like a man about to detonate his own life. "Tell them the truth, Claire. Or should I?" Claire's face twitched just once. A microscopic flinch at the corner of her mouth like a wire had snapped. Behind her eyes. "What truth?" she said, her grin a bared teeth thing that didn't reach her eyes. Jesus, Adam, don't do this. But it was too late. He turned to the crowd like a best man with a speech, except this one came soaked in kerosene. 2 months ago, Adam began, his voice even but slicing through the room like broken glass. I was looking for a playlist on Claire's iPad. She left it unlocked. Big mistake, Claire lunged. Don't, she hissed. Adam stepped away, holding the room's attention like a hostage taker with a mic. There was a folder hidden under a photo album called Italy 2021. Inside were screenshots of texts, emails, DMs, all between Claire and my best friend Brian. That was it. Boom. The room detonated. Chairs scraped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," like it was a prayer. A little boy near the cake whispered, "Mom, what's a DM?" before getting yanked backward into frosting silence. Claire looked at her mom. Their mom. I say their because she stopped being mine years ago. "Are you just going to let him say this?" Claire shrieked, trying to drag her mother into the fallout. But the woman, our mother, just stood there, as if frozen in some silent war between loyalty and optics. Her mouth opened, then closed. She blinked twice and said nothing. I could have laughed if it didn't hurt so goddamn much. Adam kept going. The messages went back 3 years. To the first Christmas I brought Claire home while I was planning this. He gestured at the chandelier, the buffet, the mountains of roses. She was sleeping with a man who once gave a toast at my birthday party. Claire's voice cracked. You said you forgave me. You said we could fix it. The room inhaled. Oh, there it was. Confirmation. Gasoline on the bonfire. Adam didn't yell. He didn't move. He just looked at her like she was already a stranger. I lied, he said, because I needed time. Because I wanted to talk to someone who would understand what it's like to be betrayed by you. So I called the only person in your life you ever treated worse than me. His eyes found mine. I called your sister. Every head turned like a puppet show on rusty hinges. I suddenly felt naked in my simple black dress, my thrifted heels, my healed-over scars they used to call ugliness. Claire's face melted. You did what? She told me everything, Adam continued. About how you and your mom cut her out, about how you used to Photoshop her out of family pictures before posting them online, about the bets you made over how long it'd take until the goblin leaves town. I blinked. That part I never told him. He must have found more. Claire was shaking now, her arms trembling, mascara bleeding. Her wedding gown suddenly looked like it was strangling her. You ruined everything, she whispered. Adam tilted his head. No, you did. I just brought the fireworks. I didn't move. I hadn't said a word. And yet the room looked at me like I was the final judge in some ancient trial. I could have walked out. I should have walked out. But then Claire turned to me, voice venomous, and spat, You were never supposed to come back. I smiled. Not with pity. Not with vengeance. Just with the calm of someone who had already buried their past and come back to dance on the grave. That's the thing about being disowned, I said softly. Eventually, there's nothing left to lose. And somewhere in the corner, a champagne flute shattered on the floor. The sound of that champagne flute shattering was like a gunshot through the silence. People jolted in their seats. A few guests, maybe the ones who didn't know the family drama, or just came for the open bar, looked wildly uncomfortable, like they were trapped in a reality show finale with no remote to change the channel. Others leaned in, because the thing about a train wreck is you can't look away once the wheels leave the track. Claire was still standing there, veil slipping down her shoulder, bouquet clutched like a weapon. Her face wasn't red, it was purple. Rage had taken over every inch of her like bad wiring in a dollhouse. You think this makes you better than me? She snapped at Adam, then whipped toward me. You think she's some kind of saint? She's just a freak we tossed out so we didn't have to keep apologizing for her face at restaurants. A gasp rolled through the crowd like a slow-moving wave. Adam's jaw clenched. I didn't flinch. And then, God bless the chaos, Aunt Carol stood up. Aunt Carol, who once called me our little garden gnome when I had braces and acne and a lisp. She wasn't exactly a warm memory. She had a whiskey in one hand and a moral compass that only turned on when someone else got caught. "That's enough," she said, pointing her drink at Claire like it was a court summons. "This is a wedding, not a bullying rerun. If you're going to have a public meltdown, at least change out of the gown first." Claire's mouth dropped open like she'd been slapped. "You all knew she wasn't right in the head," my mother hissed suddenly, trying to regain some imaginary control. Always needed attention, always playing victim. Adam turned to her slowly, like she was just now entering the room. "You mean the daughter you told everyone was away at boarding school when she was really couch surfing in another state? The one you told guests had an eating disorder just to avoid explaining why she wasn't in the family Christmas photo?" That hit like a fist. A few old family friends muttered to themselves. An elderly couple stood and quietly started packing up their things. My mother tried to recover. "I did what was best. You don't know what it was like raising her." Adam stepped forward. "No. You don't know what it's like watching someone claw their way back to life after being treated like an infestation in their own home. I talked to her for hours, Linda. And you know what she never did once?" "What?" My mother sneered. He looked at me soft for a moment, then turned back. "Never blamed you." The silence was thick, heavy, ripe. Claire looked around like she expected someone to step in to save her, but no one moved. Not her bridesmaids, not her friends, not even Brian, the best friend-turned-affair partner who I now realized was probably still hiding in the men's room pretending he'd lost cell signal. Then, from the far end of the room, a voice piped up. "Does this mean the wedding's off?" It was the flower girl. Someone laughed. Someone else shushed them. And then Adam said the line that cracked the foundation under all of them. "I'm staying married for the week, just long enough for the prenup clause to kick in. After that, Claire, I hope you and Brian enjoy splitting a couch in his mom's basement, because I'm keeping the house, the car, and every gift we got today." Claire lunged for him. Someone grabbed her. And me, I just turned toward the exit because the fireworks weren't over yet. They didn't need me to burn. I made it halfway across the ballroom before I heard my name crack through the air like a whip. "Don't you dare walk away from me again!" Claire shrieked, her voice trembling not with grief, not with guilt, but pure feral panic, the kind a predator feels when the spotlight swings around, and suddenly they are the one being hunted. I turned slowly, not because she deserved an answer, but because I wanted her to see it. The calm, the absence of the scared little sister who used to flinch when she slammed doors or whispered cruelty like lullabies. She stormed across the room, dragging tulle and glitter and all the broken promises of the day behind her like a busted parade float. "What? You think you're some triumphant little underdog now?" she spat, mascara streaking down her cheeks like black claws. "You think Adam's speech suddenly makes you madder?" I didn't answer. I just tilted my head slightly. That was worse than any words I could have said because her voice cracked. "I was better than you always. I got the friends, the boyfriends, the college scholarships. You got acne and panic attacks." She was shaking now, but still grinning, unstable, wild, like a raccoon in a bridal veil. "And guess what?" she hissed, voice low now. "You still lose, because no matter what Adam said today, he still chose me. He proposed to me, not you, so don't act like you won." Behind her, Adam just stood there, watching, silent. A few guests had started filming. I could hear the unmistakable sound of someone whispering, "Is this live?" followed by a TikTok notification ding, Claire noticed. She whipped around and screamed, "Stop filming me!" No one stopped. And that's when I finally spoke. "You're right, Claire." She turned back, stunned. You did win for a long time. You won the attention, the sympathy, the applause. You made sure every room you entered only had space for one girl to shine. And it was never going to be me because I wasn't built like you. I didn't know how to lie with a smile or flirt to get out of consequences. Her mouth opened, but I didn't let her speak. But here's the thing you never understood. You didn't win because you were better. You won because I let you. The room went quiet again, dead still. I took a slow step toward her. I let you take the spotlight because I thought it would make you love me. I gave you space because I thought if I shrank enough, you'd finally see me as human. But shrinking doesn't earn love, Claire. It just makes monsters more comfortable. She blinked, and in that instant I saw it. Not rage, not superiority, but fear. Raw, creeping, childhood fear because I wasn't playing the role anymore. I wasn't her scapegoat, her punchline, her malformed shadow. I was a mirror. She hated what she saw in it. I didn't come here to ruin your wedding, I said, softer now. I came because Adam asked me to because he wanted the truth. And I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd want it too. But I should have known. You're still the same girl who sharpens her teeth on other people's bones and calls it confidence. Claire's hand twitched like she wanted to slap me, but something held her back. Maybe the cameras, maybe Adam, maybe, just maybe, the realization that the slap wouldn't land on me. It would land on her. I didn't come to win, I said. I came to end it. Then I turned to leave again. And this time, no one stopped me. The hallway outside the ballroom smelled like vanilla air freshener and secrets. I walked slowly, heels clicking, against the marble, half expecting someone to come running after me with some last desperate insult. Some gaslit olive branch wrapped in guilt. All I heard behind me was the muffled sound of Claire's wedding collapsing into a whisper war of relatives deciding who to side with and whether to still eat the cake. I didn't rush. That walk was 9 years long. I passed a flower arrangement that probably cost more than my rent, a gilded mirror where I caught a glimpse of myself and paused. For a long time, mirrors were a punishment, proof that I wasn't enough. My face didn't match the brochure for lovable daughters or pretty little sisters. I used to avoid my reflection like it owed me money, but now I saw someone who'd walked into the lion's den with her chin high and set fire to the throne. Someone who didn't need to win because the truth did it for her. I almost made it to the elevator when I heard footsteps. Fast, determined. I turned, expecting Adam. It wasn't Adam. It was Mom. Her heels stabbed the floor with every step like she was trying to kill the building. "You think you're a hero now?" she snapped before I could say a word. "You think you've made some kind of grand statement? That you've exposed us? All you've done is embarrassed yourself." I blinked once. She kept going. "Claire's the one people care about. She's the one they'll forgive. You? You're still the same bitter, broken little thing who came crying to me because no one asked you to prom." There it was. The real face. Not the hostess smile. Not the Chardonnay-glazed socialite. Just a woman who needed a scapegoat like lungs need air. "You could have stayed away," she hissed. "You should have." I nodded slowly, not in agreement, just acknowledgement. Then I stepped forward, closer than we'd been in almost a decade, and I said it calmly, quietly. "You can lie to everyone else, Mom. You can rewrite the whole damn story if it helps you sleep. But you and I both know what really happened." She stiffened, so I leaned in. "You didn't throw me out because I was ugly. You threw me out because I reminded you of yourself." She blinked just once, and for a second her whole body faltered. A flicker of something flashed across her face. Recognition? Guilt? I'll never know. Because a second later the mask slammed back on. "You're delusional," she said, almost too fast. "No," I said, "just done pretending." I hit the elevator button, and as the door slid open, she grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but desperate. "Don't tell. Anyone what I said just now? I looked down at her hand, then back up and smiled. Not sweet, not cruel, just free. Funny thing, I said. I don't have to. The doors closed between us with a quiet ding, and for the first time in years, I felt weightless. I expected the elevator to feel like an exhale, a clean break, but it didn't. It felt like a pressure chamber. Like 9 years of silence and shame were still packed into my lungs, rattling around, looking for a way out. My reflection in the brushed steel wall stared back at me, wide-eyed, flushed, alive in a way I hadn't been since I was 17, and dragging my suitcase down the driveway while Mom watered her hydrangeas like nothing was happening. I hit the lobby, stepped out, and that's when I saw him. Adam, leaning against a marble pillar near the entrance, tie undone, boutonniere hanging on by a thread. His eyes were on the revolving doors, but when they landed on me, they didn't move. Thought I'd missed you, he said, pushing off the wall. You didn't, he nodded. Good. We stood there for a beat, maybe 2. Then I said what had been boiling at the back of my throat since the ballroom went nuclear. You knew what that would do to her, to them. I did. You planned it. Adam didn't deny it. Needed witnesses, he said simply. People who needed to see who she really is, who they really are. If I'd done it behind closed doors, they would have rewritten the story by breakfast. He had a point. But still, you used me. He looked at me then, really looked, and his voice dropped. Not defensive, but raw. I didn't bring you back to use you. I brought you back because I thought maybe you deserved to see the house burn. I studied him. No smirk, no false sympathy. Just a man standing in the ashes of a life he'd finally stopped pretending to want. I stepped past him and pushed the hotel. Doors open. The air outside hit like a baptism. Cold, real, laced with city noise and the perfume of wet pavement. I didn't stop walking, but I heard his footsteps follow. Where are you staying? He asked, catching up. Does it matter? Yeah, he said. It does. I turned to him. Why? To make sure I get tucked in before you go back up there and file for annulment in front of the buffet line? He smiled, not unkindly. No, I just figured, if you were willing to walk into that war zone for me, the least I could do is make sure you don't spend the night alone in a 3-star motel next to a gas station sushi place. I blinked. You think I did that for you? He looked confused. I laughed. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't kind either. I came for me, Adam. Not to play savior, not to back you up. I came because someone finally cracked the cage open and I wanted to know if I still had wings. He nodded slowly. Took that in. But then he said something I wasn't ready for. You always did. I stopped walking. He took a step closer. You just forgot. The rain started again, light, cold, tapping against the sidewalk like tiny reminders that this was real, that the ballroom, the screaming, the shattered glass, the confession, passed. It all happened. I looked at him, then down the street, then back at him, and finally said, I'm staying at the Liberty. 10 blocks. He nodded. No assumptions, no smugness. Mind if I walk with you? I shrugged. But I didn't say no. The walk to the Liberty was quiet, but not empty. Every footstep sounded louder in the wet silence, like the pavement was eavesdropping. Neither of us rushed. The city glowed in that humid, late-night way. Streetlights looked like halos gone dim, and neon signs blinked like they were winking at secrets they weren't supposed to know. Adam didn't speak again until we were 2 blocks away. You know, he said, hands shoved deep into his pockets, the first time I saw you, it was at that hideous family Christmas thing years ago. You were standing alone by the buffet. drinking Coke from a solo cup like it was wine. Claire told me you were the weird one. Didn't even know you were sisters. I smiled without meaning to. She told people I was adopted just to explain why I didn't match the aesthetic. He laughed under his breath. Yeah, that sounds like her. A pause. Then he added more carefully, but I remember thinking you were the only one in that house who looked awake, like you knew something the rest of them didn't. I glanced over, and yet you still proposed to her. Adam nodded, because I wanted to believe the facade, wanted the shiny, filtered, magazine-perfect life she offered. I didn't realize. It came with a user agreement that said soul not included. I let out a quiet breath. And me? What was I? He looked at me like he hadn't stopped since the ballroom. You were the warning label I ignored. That one hit harder than I expected. Not because it hurt, because it was true. We reached the Liberty's front steps. The awning fluttered in the breeze like a tired flag. I paused at the bottom. You should go, I said, looking up at the building. I will, he replied. Eventually, but he didn't move, so I turned to face him. The rain had kissed the edges of his hair. His shirt collar was damp, his eyes unreadable. A man standing between two lives, one smoldering behind him, the other unpromised. What now? I asked. I don't know, he said. I file. I leave. I tell people the truth and watch half of them unfollow me out of polite discomfort. He hesitated. Then that depends. You ever think about coming back for more than one night? I blinked. Back to what? Adam, that family's still a house of knives. I'm not walking in just to see if they've dulled a little. No, he said, stepping closer. I mean back to you. To who you were before they took the mirror and broke it over your head. That silence between us now wasn't heavy. It was waiting, like the moment between lightning and thunder. I looked down at my hands. Ringless, no apology, no need to explain why I didn't need to be forgiven for anything anymore. Then I said it. You know what the worst part was? The part they'll never understand. Adam leaned in slightly. What? It wasn't being called ugly. It wasn't the exile. It was waking up every day afterward wondering if they were right. He closed the last bit of space between us. They weren't. I let the words sit, soak, become true. Then I turned to the door, swiped the key card. Before I stepped inside, I looked back once over my shoulder. Go home, Adam. He nodded, swallowed something he didn't say. Good night, he said, and I let the door shut between us. The hotel room was cold when I entered, sterile, untouched, just beige walls, corporate art, and silence. But for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like judgment. It felt like mine. I kicked off. My shoes. Let them fall where they wanted. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't open my phone. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened. To the low hum of the mini-fridge. The distant siren echoing down 7th. The sound of not being in that house anymore. And then I did something I hadn't done since the day I left at 17. I took off every layer of armor, makeup, jewelry, the invisible script I used to carry just to survive a room with them. I stood in front of the mirror and waited for that old voice. Too much chin, eyes too close. God, is that your real smile? But it didn't come. Because I wasn't looking at a defect. I was looking at the girl they tried to erase, and she was still here. I ran my fingers along my jaw, not to criticize it, but to remember it, to reclaim it. And then my phone buzzed. Not a text, an email. From a name I hadn't seen in over a decade. Elizabeth Whitaker, my mother. The subject line, do not contact this family again. No greeting, no punctuation, no warmth. Just cold instructions in Times New Roman, like she was drafting a cease and desist to a ghost. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. The past had sent its final postcard, and all it had left was control it no longer owned. I deleted it. No second thought. Then I opened a blank note on my phone, typed a name, mine, just mine. Then, for no reason other than the small thrill of it, I added a sentence underneath. She didn't just survive, she came back uninvited, and left on her own terms. I put the phone down, and as I curled beneath the hotel sheets, rain tracing soft fingers down the window pane, I realized something. They hadn't disowned me. They'd freed me. And it took walking back through the fire to see that I'd stopped burning a long time ago. Claire explained to the guests where the groom disappeared to after the bouquet toss. Let Mom draft a new family narrative that photoshopped me back into oblivion. Let them all stew in the quiet wreckage of a day they built on lies and lace. Because I had nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix. And as I drifted to sleep too, the sound of the city breathing outside my window, one thought carried me into dreams like a lullaby. I didn't crash the wedding. I survived the war, and walked out wearing no one's name but my own.